Today is one that you guys have been expecting for a while. I have been working with the AllPower power station for a couple of months now, and I've been putting it through the gauntlet of tests to see if I think that it's a good one for you guys on the road. And well, I found a few things that you might be interested in hearing, so today, let's talk about it. But before we do, I need to put up my window covers and get the power station in question out, bring it over to the picnic table, and we can talk about it a little bit more clearly there. Okay guys, here is the power station in question. And as you can see, this power station is a decent size, nothing too large, but definitely a portable powerhouse to say the least. Now this is a 700 watt power station, so it's a little bit different than some of the others I've reviewed here on the channel, and I was very excited about that. In fact, let me show you the unboxing and then we'll get to some details. Okay guys, I am in the process of a lot of projects, so by the time that you see this, all of the projects will be complete, but currently doing a little bit of an unboxing for the AllPowers S500 portable power station. This is going to give us an idea of what comes in the box and what we can look forward to using over this next couple of months as I test this power station out for you guys. Now again, every time I go out, I try to do a variety of different tests so that I can bring you all the best information for various power stations that might work for you. Now I know there's a lot of power stations out there on the market, and so I try out a variety of different ones so you guys can have different price points, different sizes overall. And AllPowers is a company that a lot of you have kind of reached out and said, hey, have you tried them? So today we're going to actually be checking them out. Oh, don't mind me though, guys. It has been a busy time while I've been at base camp preparing for the road, and oh wow, what are we starting off with? It looks like they have all the manuals and everything right on top. Let's get them out. Sure enough, they do have the manual on the top, but it's protected by this nice plastic, which is very nice, so that helps keep it all intact, and if the box were to have gotten wet in transit, then it would still be okay. So that's really, really awesome. Now, manuals are one of those things I definitely encourage you to not only read through, but also keep with you while you're traveling, just because they are very good about helping you to troubleshoot various things. So that's a positive, and we're moving on to the next part. Okay, next we have some foam, and it's some really thick foam, so they are definitely protecting this guy as it travels. Now getting it out, oh, it's vacuum sealed into place. Woo! Oh, that was a big piece of foam, guys. Let's set that to the side, and right below that we have our power station just waiting for us to pull it out. Oh wow, I am quite impressed actually by this. I was thinking this was going to be much larger by the size of the box. Can you see this difference? Because all of that was all foam protecting it. Wow, that's a good 1.5 inches in every direction. And then also we have this little box, which we'll get to in just a moment. But first, let's talk about the power station. I have to say, this is one of the more unique looking power stations I have seen. Very, very different, because not everything is on one side. So we do have two traditional plugs here. We have some different controllers. It looks like there are a couple of different lights on here. And I don't think they sent it to me charged, but let's see if this is a power button. Yeah, this thing's pretty dead, so we're gonna have to charge it up for sure. Now let's look around here. The handle, of course, does fold all the way down, making for a nice flat surface, which I like, because that allows me to put it in a variety of different places. The handles that don't fold down make it a little bit harder, and it also makes it harder because I can't stack things on top of it. For example, I like to keep things by my door, and sometimes I'll keep a power station here. Well, if I can't put something on top of it like baby wipes or something like that, it's not really a great placement. So I really do like this. Now, kind of looking around the power station though, this is interesting. So there's an input on this side, and then it looks like there is a DC 12 volt here. There's nothing on this side. And then on this side is where you have all of your USBs and your DC outputs. So for me to plug in things, I'm going to have to plug them in all the way around this, which is very, very different. Now, all of my other power stations that I have shown on the channel all have not only a forward-facing display, but also everything can be plugged in from the front. So this is very, very different and will limit some of the places that I can put this as a result. But I am going to go ahead and give it a fair shot on the road, so we shall see. But now, with that said, let's get to the box, which was over here inside of this box. I'm assuming this is all the power cables. It is. I do, again, like the packaging, how they have it all set up. You have a traditional charging brick here, it looks like. And this is just going to be our wall plug. And that's it. Okay. So again, that's a little different. I'm kind of confused. Again, I do have a solar panel that goes with this. So all of the attachments to the solar panel are included with the solar panel. So that's one less cord. However, there is no plug to plug it in while I'm driving down the road. Hey guys, it's future editing me, and I just wanted to drop something in. Now, at this moment, whenever I discovered there was only one plug, I was so baffled, and I literally went through life for like a whole day trying to figure out, okay, is this going to work? Because all of the other power stations that I have tried to plug into my inverter, unless they are very small, pull too much, and so I didn't know if that plug would work. So I did end up having an inverter that's 150 watt pull, and this does work with it, but also I found that I had a different station that had a plug that was compatible. So you can purchase the plugs if you want to plug it directly into like your 12-volt cigarette lighter. You can. Or you could just rummage through the things that you might already have around, and who knows, maybe you'll already have one. But I wanted to share that because it's important. That's going to prove to be very difficult. Definitely. Challenge number one. So the way that this will work is I will plug this into the side, and then I will plug it into a wall plug or just a regular plug. And in order to do this while driving, I'll have to do this off of an inverter, which I do have an inverter strip, so I could do that. However, that's just not the most convenient thing when it comes to driving. Okay, so I'll figure out how this works out, and I'll get back to you guys as we test it on the road. The reason that I said what I did about the inverter itself not being the most convenient is because a lot of times I'm already using that for charging my cameras and things like that. I like to do that when I'm driving. I just plug all those tiny little things in, and then they can slowly charge from point A to point B. And so anything that takes away from me doing that then means I have to move something else. So that's why I said what I did. Now, you've seen this thing popping up on my channel time and time again. In fact, here are some of the many times that you have seen me using it, and I think you can see I have used it in a variety of different applications, everything from charging to powering our Zen Zone to also just doing daily charging and things like that. It went with me to the Pacific Northwest and it held up really well. It also has gone with me to the coldest of cold nights, and then now again to warmer temperatures once more. But these are some of the times you've seen me using it. Okay guys, so we're gonna take this AllPower and actually put it to the test today. We're gonna hook in our WeBoost to see if we can power our WeBoost with it. WeBoost is super important to me because right now I currently have no signal. So I'm trying to boost up a little bit so that we can get some power to some devices just in case. Since we're staying at this campsite, it would be nice to have a little bit of security in knowing that I have some internet. So I'm turning to AllPowers right now so that I can do that. And we're going to be using one of the plugins. In fact, we're going to be using this one that's on the side over here for this, but that'll still leave me a couple free in case I want to charge something else. So let's put this bad boy to the test. We're going to do it by taking it over here to Aussie Van Man's van because he is going to be our powerer, because we're trying to all watch a movie tonight and he has a projector. Okay, it's plugged in. Okay, sure enough, we do have power, so this is going to work. Now I need to see how much wattage it's going to pull though. Not too bad. It's only pulling about 1 watt. So at that rate, we could power it for 270 hours. Wow. On a positive note, the AllPowers did in fact power the WeBoost, and we could have run it for a really long time. On a negative note, there's just no signal here, and you can't boost nothing sometimes. Every so often you can, but not in this case. So we tried both my phone, Brock's phone. It just wasn't happening. So since it's not happening, we just won't have that extra bit of security, but at least we're all camping together. So that's a positive. Okay, we're using the AllPowers to charge our laptop right now, and you can see it's taking about 25 watts. And at this rate, it could run for approximately 8 hours, but it's kind of regulating here. So we're gonna give that a minute and look at it. It's trying to figure out how long that it could go. It looks like it did drop it down to like 5 hours there. So yeah, so somewhere between 5 and 8 hours of charging for the laptop. As you can see, those are just some of the many applications that I have had using this particular power station. Now, let's talk about what I have determined after using this for an extended amount of time. There are a few things that you are going to want to know about. Number one, of course, has to be portability. This is light enough where I don't feel like it's super hard to take with me inside or outside. I can bring it out to a picnic table with ease. It has a nice carrying handle, and the overall size of this and the weight makes it a comfortable power station to bring out in a variety of different scenarios. In fact, I have used this at campsites time and time again, just wanting to get outside of my van and bring it out into the great outdoors, and it's been perfect for that. Now, the second thing I would like to talk about is all of the various charging ports. Now, as you can see in my initial unboxing, I was a little bit questioning of this because that's not how most power stations are set up, and so I was a little worried that if I were placing this inside something, I would be cutting off the sides, and if I put this in my shelf, that is kind of the case. However, if I use this as a freestanding power station, this is actually super handy because you can have people in all directions being able to use the charging unit. Not to mention, this does allow you to use the various ports in different ways. And I really actually like that. I didn't think I would, but I do. It also really makes it easy because the cords don't get tangled up. When everything's plugged into the front, you have cords going on top of cords on top of cords, and you get tangled really easily. But with everything on its own respective side, that does not happen. That is really nice. Now, I think you can already tell, but charging is pretty simple with this guy. I can plug this into a traditional wall plug whenever I'm at base camp, get it nice and charged up to hit the road. I can also then plug it in to my inverter because it doesn't pull too many watts. And so it will actually charge directly off of my inverter in the van, but also I can use the AllPowers solar panel, which I really like. And I'm gonna go into detail on solar panels in an upcoming video so I can show you the difference between solar panels and then also why I like this one. So all in all, this has been a good power station. I've liked the accessibility, the easy charge, the size, things like that. It's a pretty hefty little power station. I've beat it on a few things, not intentionally, but that's just van life, and it has held up for sure. One of the things though that I do want to bring to your attention is the display itself. The display is very interesting on this one. Now here you can see the power station, and there are 3 buttons. In order to use the power station, you do have to select one of the AC or DC options, and then after you do, it shows a display like so. It does have an actual readout of percentage, which I really appreciate, but also it has some interesting other numbers. Now these other numbers include how long it can run and how many watts are being pulled. But unlike a lot of the power stations I have used that kind of round that number up or down depending, it gives you like per watt used how much time you have with this power station, which is quite interesting. Now, much like other power stations, this does have a light function. There are actually 2 of these, one on each side. And while these are tiny little lights, these are pretty handy whenever you're in your van and it's dark outside and you don't want to turn all the lights in your van on. You can hit this little button right here and then turn on and off the lights. And again, this isn't super bright, but it's enough to give you enough light in the van to be able to see what you're doing. Now, you know I like to keep my reviews extremely honest, and so there is one thing that I would like to say at this time as kind of like a caveat. this particular power station, while it has been exceptional, incredible, and better than I had expected, there is one thing that I have struggled with a bit with this power station. And it could just be that it's brand new. It could be that I have fat fingers and just don't push correctly. But one of the things that I've noticed is while pushing some of these buttons sometimes, it is kind of hard to get them to turn off. And I don't know if I'm supposed to just be holding like I just did to get it to turn off and on. Like that, it just worked. But this one, notice, it doesn't light up the same way. There it goes. The second time around it did. So I'm not exactly sure what causes it to do that, but that has been something that I have noticed time and time again with this power station over the past couple of months. But it does show when it is turned on, so you're not spending your battery, so that's good. But sometimes the light itself on the button does not light up, and I'm not sure why on that one. Like right now, you see the DC is on. Well, if I touch the AC and hold it down, there it is, it's on too. Immediately when the AC turns on, the fan starts blowing on this thing. Now, to turn the AC off, I'm holding it, it goes straight off. Well, what about the DC? Does it go straight off? No, it doesn't. So I'm not sure if it's just the light itself. Once it's on, but it's also showing on the display here. So that's the one thing I've noticed has been kind of strange. See right there, it went off, no problem. So again, power station works great. And I've noticed that it doesn't really drain if that light is on. Only when the AC is on does it continue to pull, because the AC has that fan. So I don't know if that actually affects the longevity of the battery as a whole. As for the day-to-day use, it does not. I will say that. I have tried a lot of different things with it staying on, with it going off, and it doesn't affect the actual working capability, but over the long term, I do not know. I'm just very honest with you guys. But that's the one thing I will say I have noticed about this particular battery that has consistently been a little bit of a question mark for me. Now again, this could be absolutely nothing, and because of that, I do want to go ahead and continue on with the review. But I wanted to give you that as kind of like a little warning label, just in case it happens to you. It happened to me too, and again, it didn't affect the ability to use the power station. It's just one of those question mark things, so it is what it is. But let's talk a little bit more about the handle. As you can see, the handle itself is nice and big. You could easily grip this with two hands if you're needing to carry it in a little bit more of a comfortable way. The nice thing about this handle is it has a little rubberized edge right here, and whenever you are putting it down, this actually allows it to lock in place, and then you have this nice flat surface, which makes it perfect for storing in the van. On this side right here, we have the input, and you have two different input settings right here, so you can input it through the regular cord or through the solar panel. There is also a nice little 12-volt plug here, and it has a cover, which I really appreciate, because this keeps it from having any kind of like rusting or any kind of weathering inside the port that could become problematic. Now, if you've watched my channel for a while, you know that I've tested several power stations, and that's always a big one for me, because if the water from my van or the condensation or the moisture from outside can get in that, you are more likely to lose that port faster. So covering it is very important. And when companies just skimp on that piece, they're basically saying that they don't care if that function continues working, in my opinion. But they definitely do want that to work, and you can see that by the craftsmanship of the battery itself. And again, guys, these are all my opinions, so don't get upset if you don't like covers. This is just what I have found to be something that helps me along the way. When they don't have covers, I tend to have more connectivity issues when it comes to plugging things in and them staying connected. It's just how the life has worked with me on the road, bouncing around the way that I do. Now, in a standard sticks and bricks, that might not be the case, but when you're living in a van with so many variables, a cover is a big deal. Now let's look at this side. This side right here actually has your USB and your USB-Cs, and then also some DC outputs right here. Now, I have never used the DC outputs. I'm just gonna be very honest, I don't have anything that plugs into these. However, I have used these to the max. I actually plugged in something to every single one of these just to make sure that it would work. work being fully plugged in. I plugged in things to these and to the main plugs and to the outer plug just to see if it would overwhelm it. It did not. And I had some bigger items on there. I plugged my laptop into the front, some cell phones, a decorative light, and then on this side I actually plugged my refrigerator in at the same time, and it worked fine. Now keep in mind, even though I did plug all of those things in, I wouldn't be able to consistently run those for an extended amount of time. In fact, you saw earlier in the video where it was talking about the laptop. The laptop can run for about 8 hours just being constantly plugged in and having to pull a draw. Laptops are pretty exceptional though, because they have very high pull. I could run my refrigerator, which is a 12-volt refrigerator. It's an AllPowers, and it's a smaller unit. I could run that for about a day and a half if nothing else was plugged in and I didn't have an opportunity to charge it again. This would be one that could be a contender though. If you have the ability to continuously charge through driving or something, you could run your refrigerator long-term off of this. This would be an option, but I wouldn't recommend plugging anything else into it if that's what you do. 700 watts is a good substantial amount of power for most people, and there are only a few things that I have in my van that won't run on this. In fact, this guy right here has become the gold standard of power hungry, and so I always gauge to see if things can plug into this, because this electric kettle right here pulls anywhere between 650 and 725 watts. With that said, I can plug it in, but it will turn off. That is the one device that I have tried that it would not work because of the draw of output. Now, to its defense though, if I plug this into my inverter, it does not work. If I plug this in to my van as a whole, this does not work. It pulls a lot of watts. I only have 2 power stations that I have tried that have been able to power this guy, and it's just because it's a power hungry device. But with that said, it's in my kit, so I always gauge every power station against it. So if you have an electric kettle, sorry guys, this power station unfortunately is just a little tiny bit shy of being able to power it for the long run. On the other hand though, basic items such as cell phones, laptops, lights, fans, all of those can be powered by this. I even tried this by hooking it up to a friend's electric blanket, and the draw on that electric blanket is only about 500 watts, and it worked. And it worked for quite a while, long enough that you could get nice and cozy. So this power station is a beefy one and very good for that. Now, a couple of other daily use items that definitely will charge with this: power blocks like these. Now, these kind of power blocks are what I typically keep in my van to charge my cell phone while I'm walking around. Or while I'm in the van, I have one of these that's dedicated to my fairy lights. They take about 4 to 6 little tiny watts to charge and definitely can run off of this power station. In fact, I was able to hook 3 of these up, stack them all together, and charge them so that I could have portable power while using the power station, no problem. Not to mention fans. I keep 2 of these tiny little clip-on USB fans in my van at all given times just for air circulation, and especially during the hot months, these are very nice because they just make the air feel less stagnant and still. And as you can see here, it has a little plug that goes in and plugs in right here, and again, that can hook into the power station also, and I can have 2 of these running continuously while also charging a couple of these and running my laptop, no problem. Let's take this same cell phone back over to the power station itself so I can give you an idea of the size as a whole, because that's one of the things that I've learned is that most people have access to a cell phone for a measuring device that they can look at. And so this again is the big boy phone. So this is the Pro, and it is the iPhone 11 Pro. And so you can see about how large it is. Well, let's compare it to the power station. Okay, here's the power station, and as you can see, nice and flat. This is the cell phone, and whenever you line up the corner, there's actually a little bit of a difference in the size. It is about 1 knuckles worth of space there. So about this much of a difference in the length of the phone and the width of the battery itself. A little more closely to show you what I'm talking about, and you can see it's lined up here, but it has a little bit of a difference in the size right there. Now let's stand it up, And right here you can see it is just a little bit taller than the phone is when standing. So you can see that difference right there is very slight. And then lengthwise, if we do the same corner and line it up, you can see it is considerably bigger than the cell phone when it comes to the length. You could do 1.5 phones in this direction. So all in all, those were kind of the specs of the Power Station in general. Now, again, I've told you how I have practically used this, and also some of the things that I thought were a little hiccup along the way. Now, this Power Station is really good for the size that it is. I think that 700 watts is a very manageable amount of power for most individuals, because it will power a lot of those power-hungry devices, but also help you with all of the little auxiliary things along the way. Being able to plug into that heating blanket was next level, but with that said, not all heating blankets are going to be rated the same. This one that was being used was actually an auto blanket that you can pick up at like truck stops and things like that. It does have a smaller power draw on it, and again, it was about 500 watts on its capped outside. Otherwise, you know, most things don't take that much power in comparison. Now, am I going to be able to plug in a full-size TV to this? No. Am I going to be able to plug in my electric kettle? No. Am I going to be able to plug in everything else that I need though? Absolutely. Now again, in regards to size, this fits just about everywhere in my van, and I found a nice little cozy nook for it while it's in transit. However, I do kind of rotate things, so because this one is so light and accessible, I can move it to various points whenever I need it. Again, bringing it outside, super simple. Now overall, I hope that this review is helpful to you in being able to see that I have practically tested this in every way, shape, and form. And I do find it to be extremely useful. The size, the capabilities, and then also the accessibility through all these plugs was absolutely fabulous. And this is something that I definitely can see myself using as I continue down the road, because I definitely think that this one is great, especially for a smaller van like I have. Now, for those of you who are just joining us, this is my Van Dimples. It is a tiny NV200, and I just wanted to let you know that every single inch counts in this thing. See guys, this is what it looks like under my bed. It fits in this perfect place, just barely sticks out from my little bedpost here, and that's a perfect place for me to drive with it, so that it has a place where it doesn't wiggle around. But the best part is when I'm not using that one, I can push my refrigerator back into its place, and then it is concealed back here. I can also charge it from this position by running a cord up to my inverter in the front seat, and so it can charge while it's under the bed. So for the size of the footprint and the amount of power that this thing gives off, it is a big win for me. I am going to be keeping this in my adventure rig and talking to you guys more about it in the future, of course. Now, I hope you guys are considering all of your power needs and thinking, how much power do I need? Is 700 watts the right amount for you? Are you doing an adventure rig where you're going to need something that can sustain numerous days off grid? Are you wanting to run those higher ticket items? Are you having a series of smaller items? Are you going to have access to plug and play power? Are you going to be purchasing the solar panel? Are you going to be running it just off your alternator as you drive down the road? All of these questions are things that you can be asking yourself as you're preparing to pick up a power station. And if you are looking for something of this size, definitely look into AllPowers. Till next time, guys. Bye. I mean, realistically, I'm sitting in my van, I'm charging my batteries. What can get better than that, right? Yeah.